I'm very delighted to welcome you on behalf of our Escape Misinformation team in the library project team. This is the first episode of a series of webinars organized as part of the project. And now we will discuss the most important brief knowledge about how to learn about misinformation, the basic terms, the basic knowledge, tools, and how to combine this subject into activities of public libraries. So once more, welcome. This is our project team, organizations from Belgium, Public Libraries 2030, the leader of the project, Culture Connect from Belgium, PINA from Slovenia, and FRSI from Poland, which I represent. And we are very happy you joined us for this webinar. And brief information about the project. We think that, and we believe that it is essential to discuss with young people issues concerning misinformation and critical thinking, and help them develop the skills to navigate the digital landscape consciously, and to develop some resilience on manipulation and misinformation online. We believe that public library is a perfect place for this because it can offer some educational activities which are innovative, which are engaging, which are attractive for young people. So this is a part of our project. We use the methodology of escape room games, which was provided to us by our partner, University of Washington Center for Informed Public. They provided us with 2 games, escape room games, and the methodology of how to use it in educational activities in libraries. So here our team again, and I will next give the floor to our speaker, Piotr Hensler. He's Polish, he's a trainer, consultant, sociologist, and he has been working with libraries, with non-government organizations and schools and other institutions, and conducted training dedicated to critical thinking and misinformation, disinformation, and all those media literacy features. We cooperated with Piotr, among others, in our Polish project, Click, Check, Understand, and he is also author of several publications, including a guidebook on critical thinking, disinformation, misinformation, all this relevant knowledge, entitled Click, Check, Understand, How to Use Information Consciously. So I am switching off my presentation and give the floor to Piotr. I hope everything is okay, so please continue. Thank you.
Agnieszka, thank you very much for introduction. Good morning, everyone. It's really great to meet you all, or maybe it's better to say have you all in the Zoom webinar, and spend the next hour diving into a topic that's both fascinating and terrifying, because we live in the world of fake news. We live in the world because of that. It's a little bit dangerous, and we should be aware of it, and we should have tools and have methods and have proper attitude to defend ourselves and to defend people who we are working with or who are living with and who are important to us. So thank you, Agnieszka, for inviting me here. And once again, welcome to all of you. And before I will jump into my presentation, I have a quick question to you as a kind of warm-up, but I'd like you to see that question. So I start with my presentation, but now I lost the button to, yes, I got it. Yes. The question for warm-up is, how much of the content that ends up on the internet do you think is produced by AI? It's a question about human-produced content and AI-produced content. And please write in the chat, how do you think? How much of it is produced by AI? I see 50%, 30%, 25, 30, 32. Oh, it's so fast. Probably I missed something, but different numbers. 60%, 70%, 25, 80%. Magdalena is the most pessimistic person in that terms from our group. Okay, so the right answer is that it's a 51%, but of course, it's only one report, only one research. Practically, there is a lot of studies which search for what's happening on the internet, and the exact numbers can vary, but the most important is the scale of the phenomenon. Half or over the half of the internet content is made using AI, and sometimes it's just AI generated. And it's the world we live in. We are using social media, we are using emails, we are using generally internet for learning how the world works, and we are encountering over half of the information made by artificial intelligence, by bots, by fake accounts. Of course, when we are thinking about traffic, traffic, sorry, I have a problem with my presentation, so I'm trying to do both, changing slide and talking to you. Yeah. Traffic on the internet, it's not only post on social media. It's the primary source of fake news, of course, but it's not only social media posts, but it's also comments on social media. There are blogs, website posts, there are reviews on Google, on the Facebook, reaction to the post, comments on the content published in electronic media, graphic and video materials. It's the fastest spreading part of that AI content is a graphic and especially video materials. And there are also emails and spam, which is attacking us almost every day. But what's important? That doesn't automatically mean that all this content is fake in the sense of false content. It could be even real. But the problem is that it wasn't created by human being, but is created by AI. So it's not about real people, and it's not about the real opinions. And that's the problem, because we don't know, consuming news on the internet, not only if it's true or false in the meaning of content, but we also don't know if it's true or false in the meaning of who did it, who is creator of it, and who is behind that information. Is it person, is a real person, or is it bot, is it fake account? Of course, and the next question is, what's the purpose of that information? But it's a question for next part of our meeting. And this webinar is not to scare you. It's not to tell you that the world is bad, that the world is dangerous, but this webinar is to show you that, of course, there are some dangers. There is a lot of fake news in different forms. But the most important information that I'd like to convey to you is that we have a lot of tools that help us to defend ourselves. And there is a lot of tools and rules and mechanisms that can help us to be more fake news proofed, and we are able to fight it. Not completely. I don't believe that we can do anything to totally erase fake news from the internet or from the other areas, but we can have some weapons, we can have some methods that can make us safe in that world. What's on the program today? We have, I don't know, 45 minutes, something like that, and 5 important points. So I'd like to cover all of that. The first one is what are fake news and some other important words. It's something about definitions and to think similarly about problems we are facing. The second point is where does fake news come from? Very important point, because I will explain it later. Why do people believe false information? What we as a consumers do that believe in fake news, and of course what the producers do to make us believe. Next point is about fake content and AI. Of course, it's a vast ocean of fake news prepared as a deep fakes, manipulated videos, manipulated graphics, and it's very dangerous because it's a lot more difficult to recognize than text in fake news. And the last one is a question: is it possible to recognize fake news? And the answer, of course, is yes, it's possible. It doesn't mean that we can recognize every news as a fake or not, but we have tools, rules, mechanisms, and applications that can help us with that. So let's start with the basics. What are fake news? The simplest definition of fake news is very simple. It's false information that misleads its audience. Easy. But of course, it doesn't show the whole characteristic of that phenomena. So I will show you the more complete definition, which is a little bit outdated, as you can see. Fake news is a news or propaganda based on false information, whether intentional or unintentional, disseminated through traditional print and electronic media or online and social media, often produced, written, recorded, with the intent to deceive, to harm an institutional person, or to gain political or financial profit, and sometimes, or often, with sensational, exaggerated, or false headlines designed to attract attention. Why have I told you that it's a little bit outdated? Because if you are aware of fake news which are dominant nowadays, you can observe that, of course, there is a lot of fake news in terms of clickbaits. Some information about celebrities and other people who did something very interesting, and you should read it to be aware what's happening. And this sensational character of fake news is, of course, still on. But the problem is, and the most dangerous fake news are not the sensational, are not clickbaits. There are fake news which seems to be normal, professional news, which are designed to give us information, which are designed to lead us somewhere, which are designed to make us do something. Of course, the problem is not that there is such a big amount of fake news on the internet, in the other areas. The problem is that we believe fake news. What are the consequences? It's a lot. I'm not going to show you all consequences of believing fake news, but I'd like to show you few of them to show different aspects of impact of fake news on our life. First of all, and it's the slightest impact of the fake news, that I can embarrass myself in front of friends, family, and colleagues, telling something completely stupid, completely untrue, completely made up, because I haven't checked it before. And of course, it's a few minutes of blame, but I will survive it. The second potential consequence that I could buy something that turns out to be different from what it was supposed to be. I don't know if you encounter such a situation, but it was a few posts, few threads, few entries on different channels about shopping on a Chinese e-commerce platform. For example, someone was going to buy a bike, and of course, he or she got a bike, but it was a toy for children. It was a few centimeters, not real bike, but it was shot. The photo of that bike was shot in that way that it seems to be a real bike using for riding. Another consequence is a political shade of that I can support during election a candidate who really isn't mine. Because of some full information, I would resign of supporting my candidate, or I will give my vote for a person who seems to be proper one, but this impression was made by false information. And now we are going to more important consequences. This political consequence is important, but the next one is about something really important. I will give up science-based medical treatment. Probably you know that is a lot of ideas how to heal people, how to treat them when they're ill, using some magic methods which are better than science-based medical treatment. And probably the most recent example is about vaccines against COVID-19, which is treated, is or was treated as a danger for people, as a way of taking control of them. And many people decided not to get vaccines because they were afraid of the results of it. Of course, money. I will give up my life savings to scammers. It's a lot of successful tries of fraud. Scammers are pretty good in that what they are doing, and it's $100 million or euro per year which are given them by people who are, I wouldn't say too naive, because even people who are well educated and aware of different dangers could make mistake and pay them. And the last example of consequence is a situation that I will start believing that someone, a person, group, or even nation is worse, dumber, less valuable, uncontemptible than other. Of course, the other mean me personally or people from my group. So as you can see, the consequences could be real, could be serious, and could change not only my or our lives, but also the lives of people who are affected by decision I made basing on fake news. Okay, we know there is a lot of fake news, but we should look deeper what types of there are, because it could help us recognize them, spot them in normal life, and make us aware of different danger which are around us. And it's a typology proposed by very important institution. It's a Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism. This institution publish every year a report on media consumption, on media literacy, on media phenomena. Not every volume is dedicated to fake news, but this topic is on different level, could be found in every report. So this typology is from 7 years ago, but I encourage you to, if you are interested in it, to see the last report from this year. There's a lot of interesting information. What are the types of fake news? Information that has been deliberately manipulated to achieve a political or business goal. It's a one type. The second one is information that appears to be credible journalistic material, but it's actually advertising content. Of course, there are some regulation that should secure us against it, but sometimes it works, sometimes not. Information invented from scratch to achieve a political or business goal. Information with misleading headlines, featuring clickbait titles, sensational, intriguing headlines that only partially relate to the content, designed solely to generate clicks and direct the audience to an offer or service. Information resulting from poor knowledge, factual errors made by information creators. And the last one, which could be under discussion, because information invented from the scratch aimed at making the audience laugh, kind of satire, comedy, or something like that, memes. And it could be discussable, but when I see you the whole typology, I should show you the whole one. And the question to you is, which type of fake news do you encounter mostly? Please write in the chat the proper number. How do you think? Which of it is the most popular in your media, in your life, in your bubbles in which you are living? 4. I see Steph. Thank you. So this sensational kind of clickbait, something like that. 3, 4. Invented from scratch to achieve political or business goal. 2, 3, 6. 4, 4, 4. I see that 3 and 4, maybe 4 is a predominant in that situation. 444. Okay, thank you very much for your answers. I see that the fourth type of fake news is the winner of our our small survey. So information with misleading headlines, featuring clickbait titles, and so on. So I can say that you are lucky because this kind of fake news is not as dangerous as the other ones. But of course, sensational information, clickbait, and so on can also lead us to make some mistakes which can influence our life. But it's not as bad as it could be. Okay, fake news is a piece of information. It's a one article, one photo, one video, or something like that. But one fake news, one piece of fake news, is not a real danger. The problem is that we are encountering the string of fake news, a lot of them, which are making impression that world looks that or other way. And before we go further, I'd like to introduce you three very important expressions, three very important words connected to this fake news universum. And it's disinformation, misinformation, and malinformation. As you can see on the slide, let's organize our vocabulary to know that we think similarly or the same about this important expression. First of all, disinformation. Disinformation is probably the most popular of these terms, at least in Poland. It's used very often. It's simply false information created intentionally to deceive the audience. And notice the word in red. It's not an accident that it's in red, because this word deceive responds for this element in this information. So disinformation is an intentionally created false information. Example, this COVID-19 vaccines. A few years ago, there were claims that government wanted to implant chips during this procedure to gain control over us. The second important word is misinformation. Misinformation is also false information, but the difference is in the origin of it, because misinformation comes from creators' unintentional mistake. So misinformation is a result of lack of knowledge, is a result of hang up, is a result of something inaccuracy of that person, but it's not intentionally, but unintentional. From our point of view, from the point of view of consumers, it's not as important difference as in theory, but thinking about the sources of fake news, think about the intention which stand behind, it's important to be aware, was it intentionally or unintentionally? And at least misinformation probably is the least known, is a true information used in the wrong context. And because of that, it's very important. Because when we see that information, we can think, yes, it's true. I heard about it before. I saw that movie. I saw that photo. So it must be true. But it's not true. Because it's put in wrong context. And the whole situation is completely untrue. Example, a real photo on a country leader, but placed in a situation that never happened. For example, somebody's birthday party. It's an example not very important in terms of meaning for the word, but it can show you how it works. So we can take a photo of someone, we can take a part of information which is true, and we can put it in a completely wrong context, showing the totally and creating totally different situation, misleading us totally, because we see that partly is true. And it's a natural mechanism of people mind that if we see that the beginning is true, it's easier to believe that the whole piece of information, the whole article, the whole video is also true. So disinformation, misinformation, malinformation there are not only words, but there are only the mechanism of manipulation which are exercised on us and which cause that we are losing our cautious, our awareness that something wrong is going on. Okay, so now we know about definitions, about expression, about important words, some statistics and data to show you the scale of that phenomena. The first question is how many fake news stories are in the world? And the answer is very, very simple, and it's not a question to you, because nobody knows, nobody counts. There is so much fake news, there is a so big amount of that no one is brave enough to count it. Not only because of the number of it, but also because of very variety of it, different approaches, different typology of fake news. So of course you can find on the internet different data, different numbers about fake news, but I personally didn't spot anything which is reliable, which is worth sharing with you. But one example about the scale of that phenomenon. Pravda Network. I don't know if any one of you knows it. Pravda Network is a network of fake accounts, bot farms, and something like that, financed by, of course, unofficially by Russian governments. And the Pravda Network is a few dozen of websites, international and local versions of news channel. And this Pravda network publishes over 3.5 million articles per year. And these articles are spread around the world, showing the Russian point of view, speaking more, not expanding that subject. The question is also who creates fake content, because it's not only government, something like that. And it's a question to you, not to write in the chat, but to think about who creates fake content. And the most important answer is that the main contributor is us, anyone, everyone, because we are people who consuming media, who are gathering information, who are gathering different news, and we are people who are sharing them with our family, our friends, our colleagues, not always thinking about the value of that information, about that if it's true or false. Of course, there is a lot of media workers. I deliberately don't use the word journalist, but media workers focused on clickability. There are media, classical, electronic media, YouTubers, Instagram creators, other people who are focused on clickability and are ready and open to do anything to gather more fans, more followers. Deliberate PR actions, black PR and also white PR. So there are planned and designed actions to change the point of view, to change the image of someone or some company of some country, to change mind of people who are perceiving information and getting some impression about something. Scammers, of course. I told you about scammers before, and hostile propaganda. Not only Russian, there are different outlets, different sources of propaganda, which is trying to convince us to different behavior, approaches, points of view. And of course, fake accounts and bots, who are substitute people. They make their work easier, cheaper, and more effective. The next question is, do people notice those fake news? Yes, and the answer is positive. The answer is that yes, people notice fake news. And I'd like to show you the one report. It's from last year, and it's an international company, Ipsos, which surveyed people from a lot of European countries. And they asked them, how often do you think that you have been personally exposed to disinformation and fake news over the past 7 days? It's important, 7 days. It's not a question about the whole life or the 1 year, but it's about 7 days. And what do we have? And do we have 3 options: very often, often, or someone? And how did the result look like for 3 countries: Poland, Belgium, and Slovenia? Poland. 60% of respondents say they often encounter fake news during 7 days. In Slovenia, it's 11%. In Belgium, it's 8%. So we can see there are differences between those 3 countries, but we will not dive deeper in the reasons of that difference. But what's important, that overall, 74% of Poles, 68% of Slovenians, and 63% of Belgians are exposed to this information. And what does it mean? It's a lot or not? The question is not about these people. The question is about these people who wasn't exposed. What does it mean? Does this mean that fake news doesn't reach everywhere after all? Happy people, no fake news in their life? Or does it mean that the rest are unaware that they're encountering fake news? And this is a problem. I don't know which version is better. I will leave for you to judge. But those 2 questions appeared when I saw the statistics, because this 60 or 70% of people are aware that they have encountered fake news. What about the rest of them? We know that's a lot of fake news. We know the types. We know some data. The next question is, what contributes to increase in the number of fake news? It's an important question because it shows us when or where we are especially vulnerable to fake news, and in which circumstances the fake news have a good conditions to increase in numbers and to increase in impact. So let's have a look on internal or consumers factors, the situation that makes us, people, more open to fake news. First of all, it's fear. Fear of war, disaster, epidemic, misfortune, war. There is a lot of reasons why we feel fear. Next, uncertainty. Crisis of trust in media institution. Example, these vaccines. Lack of knowledge. Technology, 5G, chemtrails, this magic magic elements produced by jets. Polarization. Elections, taking sides in multiple conflicts, political, international, conflict of values. It's a lot of reason why we are polarized, and it's a excellent condition for fake news to be more important, to be more visible, to play the bigger role in our life. And also there are some external factors. Deliberate actions by external agents to influence public opinion, and actions aimed at deceiving internet users. There is a lot of types of manipulation. If you are interested, you can check it individually. It's astroturfing, brigading, seeding and amplifying, hash hijacking. It's a lot of techniques that are used by fake news creators. They are used by people who are responsible from disinformation or more information. What is in common for them, that they are trying to create impression that everyone believes in something, that everyone thinks the same. And this astroturfing or brigading is only techniques, but the general idea is make impression that everyone is the same or everyone thinks the same. What do people do when they encounter fake content online? You can see that these data are, I don't know if they're optimistic or pessimistic. 58% are concerned about what is real and what is fake on the internet. What does it mean? I don't know. But what is important, I think, that in Europe, it's only 54% of Europeans are concerned. Even if it means that they are concerning just and doing nothing more, it's not a lot of people who are concerning. Why? I don't know, but I think that this result could make us think what are the reasons of that low result. Okay, so let's finish with statistics. The next question is, why do people believe fake content? And it's a question to you. And I'd like to ask you to write in the chat, how do you think? Why do people believe fake content? What's happening to them, to us, that we believe fake content, that we believe fake news, that we could be misled by people who would like to deceive us? Please write in the chat. Lack of time to verify. Yeah, thank you, Rosa. What else? Convenience. Yeah. It's easier to believe than to do not. They trust every media because they used to trust conventional media. Yeah. Need for clear answers in a complex world. Yes. We'd like to live simple life. To emotional reaction of news we see. Convenience and values. It seems to be true. They live in groups who have a certain worldview. They feel heard. Lack of media education. Belief. Thank you very much. Indeed. Social proof. Yeah. Other people believe, so I can. Yeah. This mechanism often appear and are exploited by more or less aware creators of fake content. Since I didn't know what you'd write in the chat, I had to prepare the presentation beforehand. Here are some of what you mentioned before. Treat it as a reinforcement on the message. And probably I prepared something that didn't appear in the chat. Thank you very much. Why people believe in fake news? Yeah, it was question to you. What are the mechanisms? We are more likely to believe information published in the medium we trust, or more broadly, from a source we trust. For example, I've always read The Guardian, so I tend to believe what they write. On the other hand, there's visible decline in trust in traditional media institution. So we should be aware of it, and she would be cautious reading or listening to information from conventional media, because not everyone believes them. If someone stops trusting the giants and become more susceptible to information from lesser known, possibly unchecked media outlets, it can lead them to some dangers or traps. We are more likely to believe what our close ones and colleagues believe. So it's a bubble. It's a filter bubble, and these filter bubbles are supported by social media and their algorithms. That makes us believe that everyone thinks the same, that everyone has the same point of view, that everyone has the same values. And we are more likely to believe what even strangers believe, but in a large number. And this is social proof, which was mentioned in the chat also. We are more likely to believe information that confirms what we have previously heard or seen. And we are more likely to believe what is consistent with our worldview, our values, and our prior opinions about people or phenomena. And it's called confirmation bias. We are more likely to believe information that contains numbers, data, quotes from famous or respected people, and that's it. That's its work. And we are more likely to believe information that is presented professionally. What does it mean professionally? If something was polished, it seems more credible. If someone wears a uniform, we can trust them. If they have the title professor, they must be smart. And let's test it. Ask yourself and write in the chat, how do you feel? Which one would you ask for help when you are ill? A or B? Please, quick response to that question. Which one would you help when you are ill? B, 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 none. Sylvia, none. B, B, B. Okay. Next question. Can you see it or not? Not you can see it. The next question is, which one will you ask for direction in the forest? A or B? A. And the last one is, which one will you ask for advice on what to invest in? A or B? A, none. None. B. Okay. And what do you see looking at the chat and the answer you put it? Did you evaluate these people objectively? We know nothing about these people. The first, the person A, could be an excellent doctor hiking in the woods. And the second could be comedic actor pretending to be surgeon. And how often do we get fooled by uniform, by view, by image? And that's the way this manipulation works. And what else? Information overload. Being flooded with information make it harder to filter out what's false, stupid or useless. The other reason is decision fatigue. I can tell you from my experience from a few days ago, recently, I had to replace my dishwasher. How many models met my criteria? About 40. So how to choose? Finally, I stopped reading reviews, skipped descriptions, and probably made the wrong choice in the end. Maybe not wrong, but for sure not the best one, because I was tired reading opinions, comparing instructions, comparing characteristics, something like that. And let's not forget the last one. We are all humans, and we have all our psychological needs. What they could be? I want to be loved, appreciated, noticed. And what does it mean? If someone pays me attention, I might believe them faster than people who are ignoring me. I want to succeed or show off my success. So if someone admires me, I admire them back. And the last one, I want to find an explanation for my failures. What does it mean? It's easier to accept that a global plot cost me my job than my own incompetences or simple bad luck. So this need to find explanation lead people to conspiracy theories about New World Order, about some people who are rules us without our knowledge. And that's not all, because we have also the greatest challenge of our time. It's AI. AI, yeah. Probably a lot of you remember or know this saying, peak or it didn't happen. Before AI explosion, you had to show a photo to prove the truth of a text. And now everything can be made. What AI can do? It creates an animation in which an avatar speaks any text in human voice. It could replace the head or face in real photo. It's called face swap. It could add animation to a photo, bringing this photo to life. It could overlay an artificial voice onto a live recorded person. It may generate any voice spoken by a real person based on another recording of them. It's enough 3 or 4, maybe 5 seconds of real voice to clone it and to prepare the whole voice of real person. Generating a translation of real voice into another language. And also from another point of view, but it's important to mention, AI can create fake news messages, comments, etc. on its own. Few examples. What you see on the left side of the slide is a normal photo I took at the workshop a few months ago. Normal? I'm not sure. this photo comes to life. On the right part of the of the slide, you can see famous sculpture of girl in goose in small town in Poland, Barlinek. Why should the goose just stand politely? It could be shown. And it's one application, it's a very effective application, Runway ML, in which you can do such a manipulation. Another example. It's a Japanese warrior. Nice outfit, and I like it. So I'd like to have the same. Maybe not have the same outfit, but I'd like to see other people believe that I have one. So I made face swap, and you can recognize my face instead of the face of the people on the original photo. Dream face application, and it's a lot of application that allows to make face swapping. I suppose you know that man. So let's listen to him.
Good morning. I'm glad to see you. I hope you find the webinar on fake news interesting. I also hope you know that it's not really me, but the result of an app that adds a voice to a photo. Cheers.
Yeah, I hope it worked. And the last example, it's not previous, but it's a current US leader. And be careful and try to listen to him. And part of you could understand him, part of you probably not.
Amerykanie wiedzą, że w świecie, w którym inni dążą do podboju i dominacji, nasz kraj musi być silny.
As we don't have translation in our webinar, I will not play the whole clip, but it's a real recording of Donald Trump, his real voice, real words he spoke a few years ago, but he speaks in Polish. Why? Because I used an application, HeyGen application, which allows you to translate any film, any clip you have. And some data to summarize that part. Across all markets, the proportion consuming social media has grown from 52 to 65% in this year, and any video, not only all social media, to 75. What does it mean? That so many people learn something from video. And you can see how it's easy to prepare fake video. The second data is that it's difficult to measure how many fake videos, it's called deepfake, are produced. But one of the agency, it's an agency ACA affiliated with the UK Home Office, estimates that over 8 million deepfakes will be released this year. And the last information, the last statistic for this topic is about the content of the deepfakes. 96 to 98 of them, there is a kind of pornographic videos, mostly created by face or head swapping of people engaged in that production. So if you have professional or quasi-professional movie, it could be taken and someone could put a head or face of his colleagues or his I don't know, friend in that film. So it's a horrifying. But as I told you before, we have methods to deal with fake content. And the most important and the strongest weapon we have is our brain and is our mind and critical thinking. But except for critical thinking, we have also various tools that support us. I will skip the data to try to keep in time, but you will have this available after our webinar. But I'd like to show you two models. One of them is a CRAP model. It's a popular system for evaluating the credibility of information. And what is important, especially because of that project, that it was created in the librarian environment at the Miriam Library at California State University in Chico. And as you can see, the name of it is a CRAP. And it's not only idea, which I show you in seconds, but it's also kind of job, because crap in English means nonsense, rubbish, and something more. I can't say it publicly. So how it looks like? CRAP stands for currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose. So if you'd like to check if the news is fake or not, or maybe if it's true, you can look more positively, you can check the timeliness of the information. Relevance is the information is important based on my needs. Authority, I'd like to check what's the source of that information. Accuracy, is that information reliable, correct? And purpose, very important point. Why does the information exist? What's the reason it was created? To educate someone, to sell something, to make someone do something? I don't know. The CRAP model was created as a model to analyze the scientific articles, but it's worth thinking warmly about it when analyzing other important information too. But the more simply model is 5W. When was it published? Where did it appear? What is the evidence? Why was it shared? And probably the most important, who is behind the information? If you'd like to make this analyze fast, you can use that model and check if it's information true or false. These two models have analyzed any type of message, any type of information that seems suspicious, written or also audio or video. But for this more complex information, for these deepfakes, you can also use another techniques, which are not suitable for written, but should be used when you analyze deepfake or photo. You can pay attention on mismatch between body language and spoken content. For example, cheerful person present catastrophic information. It doesn't work. Second, voice not matching the character. For example, the young person in the image speaks with the older voice, or a woman voice is swapped with a man or vice versa. Foreigners speaking fluent local language. Of course, technically is possible, but we might believe that Elon Musk appreciates the Polish market so much that he decides to learn Polish. But in practice, it's probably unbelievable. But in Polish internet, probably in Slovenian or Belgian also, you can find movies with Elon Musk speaking Polish. Blurred image, strange background voices, apparent disturbances, poor quality, and so on and so on. So if you are trying to analyze if any video is true or false, you should concentrate not only on content, but also on technical aspects and thinking logically about the way of showing it. And of course, AI-generated fake news are very dangerous to us, but AI can also help us. And it's a few, or maybe even a lot of application that helps us recognize if this information is true or false. The one of that is a CopyLeaks, and I really encourage you to use it if you'd like to check if a text article is not only true, but if it's human or AI generated. You can see here it's an analysis of Polish article, but not the content is important, but the results. You can see that this text is matched in almost 95%, but AI content is 0%. So it means it's human-made. Other way of recognizing fake news or avoiding fake news is to using proper search engines. Of course, you can use Google, but you can also use another one. It's called Site AI, which not only gives you information, not only gives you data results, but also on the right part of that slide you can see sources. So you can immediately check if it's really true or if it's just some information knowledge from the internet. The next one is about analyzing photos. And if you see a photo and you are not sure if it's true or not, if it's false or not, you can use reverse image search. It's a technique that shows you that allows you to check if this photo is original or not, if it's popular or not. You can see that this photo was published in 22 sites, so probably it could mean that it's true. And you can also check when it was first published, on which site, and something like that. The next application I want to show you is a Verifix.com. It's an application that shows you metadata from photos, because sometimes it's important to check if this image, if this photo, if this graphic is human-made or AI-made. So using this kind of application, you can check metadata. If it's human-made, you can see different data about techniques. If it's AI-made, probably there is no data showing the background of that photo. You can also upload the finished material to an application. There are a lot of them. Here you can see few: Deepware, EasyAI.com, Attestive Video, Deepfake Detector, Arva, or Forensically. There are different applications that helps you recognize if it's true or false. You can upload photo or video, and of course you will get result. But if its decision about true or false is important, I encourage you to use minimum 2 of them, because they are not working perfectly. But it could show something important for you, and could tell you something what is needed. And that's all. That's all. The most important thing I'd like to share with you, I wrote down on this slide to not avoid any important word, so I will read it. Remember, if you don't use your brain, no tool will help. Critical thinking, mindfulness, caution, and education, that's what will save us all. So before you hit play, think for a while, look around, take a deep breath, and hit it. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Piotr, for your presentation, and also thank you all participants for your input on chat. I hope that the presentation and our meeting was helpful for us in your own personal development and professional development, and also as a something to use during your educational activity, during your discussions with people who come to library for meetings or for some educational activities, not only young people. The next webinars, as I wrote in the chat, will be dedicated to using gamification and games in media literacy activities in libraries. And there will be also a webinar concerning disinformation and misinformation on climate change, because it is a very important issue. And we think that we also, it is worth talking about this with young people. And as part of our project, there will be also developed a toolkit on how to use gamification and games in media literacy activities in libraries. So this will be open to everyone. And so stay tuned with us. Please follow the information about the project. And we also will be posting everything that we think will be useful for you.